conjugal rights is given in section Hindi Marriage नाम रे अच्छी Hindi Marriage Act रे in which case जो ये spouse has without reasonable excuse in which case of prison inmate sent a letter to Supreme Court पठेले inmate Supreme Court describing physical torture which became a prisoner in public interest litigation ହେଲା तो जदि तो कोर्ट लेटर abandon छाड़ कला abandon the practice of considering letters कोर्ट लेटर abandon सुनील बात्रा वर्सेस दिल्ली एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन explained in the case Sunil Batra Delhi administration the Supreme Court understood the need for a reorientation of outlook towards the prisoner strategy and reform prison manuals को reform करने पे even though the petitioner were dismissed they succeeded in principle the court upheld prisoners fundamental rights and issue various guidelines pertaining to solitary confinement use of fetters जो सब बंदी था solitary एटा सेमती conjugal right is given section 9 Hindu Marriage Act रे spouse has without reasonable excuse reason on the excuse by withdrawn from society of the other agreed party may apply कर पारे petition to the district court रे for the restitution of conjugal right conjugal वैवाहिक right restitution पाई and the court on being satisfied of the truth of the statements made in such petition of that there is no legal ground nahi where the application should not be granted habani may decrease restitution of conjugal rights accordingly where a question arises whether there has been a reasonable excuse for a withdrawal from the society the burden of the proof shall be on the person who has withdrawn from the society when a person where a question arises whether there has been reasonable excuse for withdrawal from the society burden of proof shall be on the person who has withdrawn from the society shall be on the person is silent what prevails कोटा मिताक्षर प्रिभेल्स करियो दया भाग इज साइलेंट हबो मिताक्षर प्रिभेल कर सिरे ए सोशल एक्टिविस्ट ग्रुप डिस्कवर करला सिवियर एक्सप्लॉयटेशन ऑफ लेबरर मान को वर्किंग इन स्टोन कॉलेज नियर दिल्ली पाखरे द वर्कर्स इंक्लूडिंग मेनी चिल्ड्रन वर वर्किंग इन द एक्सट्रीमली hazardous condition living in the जो makeshift shelters रे and we are effectively trapped in cycle of debt runare first labor condition revealed systematic violation of fundamental human rights Supreme Court was approached to look into the dire circumstances of the working person there and one of the following views of the court was sustained in the said case identified from the following Supreme Court recognized the right against forced labor as a fundamental right derived from the right to life even and human dignity under the article 21 right against forced labor that deliver kala from the right to life human dignity read the given statement to the correct option choose karo PL case the court plays passive role similar to traditional case court plays a passive role play करला तो similar to traditional case डेटा PL case court plays a passive role करे ना PL is primarily focused on the individual dispute no এটা হচ্ছে group community interest PL case the court plays a passive role similar to traditional case active role to settlement level the concept of a locus standi is relaxed in PL cases PL allows any public spirited person to approach the court on behalf of those who cannot represent themselves represent kari parante nije locus standi hochi is relaxed in PL रे अछि any PL allows any public spirited person public लोक स्पिरिचुअल लोक मनोवृत्ति लोक भल पाइबा फिलांथ्रोपिस्ट अप्रोच कर द कोर्ट ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ दोज हु कैन नॉट रिप्रेजेंट देमसेल्स निजे निजे रिप्रेजेंट कर परिबे नहीं कुछ तो फॉलोइंग बेस्ट डिफेंस डेलीगेटेड लेजिस्लेशन कौन कोर्ट जो करे लॉज मेड बाय एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव द्वारा जो तैयारी हुए अथॉरिटी अंडर पावर्स गिवन टू देम बाय पार्लियामेंट पावर देता है डेलीगेट्स लेजिस्लेशन लॉज मेड बाय एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव अथॉरिटी द्वारा लॉजटा तैयारी होता है अंडर पावर्स गिवन टू देम बाय पार्लियामेंट पावर तक दिया जाता है पार्लियामेंट द्वारा इन 2028 धरोड़ा विलेज द पंचायत इलेक्शन कुड नॉट बी हैपन कोविड पैंडेमिक जो हो पारानी व्हेल द टेनर ऑफ द पंचायत वाज गेटिंग ओवर दैट इयर्स इटसेल्फ गोटे वर्ष मिस्टर हरिवंश रिप्रेजेंट द पीपल दैट ईयर से वर्ष एट द पंचायत पोस्ट रिजोल्यूशन हो ऑफ द पंचायत टेनर मेड ए लॉ एक्सरसाइजिंग द डेलीगेट पावर भाईडी पंचायत राज एक्ट द स्टेट रेस्ट्रिक्ट कला देयर इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटीज पर डे 100 ओनली इन व्हिच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग केस वो अलाउड है रेस्ट्रिक्ट और रेस्ट्रिक्टेड है एमसीडी वर्सेस बिल्ला कॉटन मिल्स धरोड़ विलेज होची पंचायत इलेक्शन गुजरात रो कुड नॉट हैपन ड्यू टू कोविड पैंडेमिक जो हो पारानी तेणु शटा मिलला वेल टेनर ऑफ द पंचायत वाज गेटिंग ओवर सरीगला एंड दैट टेनर ऑफ द पंचायत गेटिंग ओवर सरीगला दैट year itself से वर्ष हरिवंश रिप्रेजेंट कला द पीपल दैट ईयर एट द पंचायत पोस्ट रिजोल्यूशन पर रिजोल्यूशन भांगीगला टेनर टू ऑफ द पंचायत टेनर सरीगला मेड ए लॉ एक्सरसाइजिंग द डेलीगेट पावर व्हिच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज आर नॉट ग्राउंड्स फॉर जुडिशियल रिव्यू एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एक्शन जुडिशियल रिव्यू रो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एक्शन होची डी ओनली फॉर माने पब्लिक ओपिनियन कोटा जुडिशियल रिव्यू करि परिबनी पब्लिक ओपिनियन नो जुडिशियल रिव्यू पर इलीगलिटी इरेशनलिटी प्रोपोर्शनलिटी पब्लिक ओपिनियन टा नहबनी ग्राउंड नो लोकमत अनुଯାयୀ इलीगलिटी इरेशनलिटी प्रोपोर्शनलिटी इंटरेस्ट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट होची रिफर्स टू ए प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स अनुଯାयୀ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट होची व्यक्तिगत नैतिकता होची कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट असुविधा कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट निजर स्वार्थर वेयर पर्सनल इंटरेस्ट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट विथ प्रोफेशनल ड्यूटीज जो पर्सनल इंटरेस्ट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट करे विथ प्रोफेशनल ड्यूटीज मैंने कर्तव्य अनुযাयী एडवोकेट मिस्टर एक्स वाज रिप्रेजेंट करथिला ए क्लाइंट मिस्टर वाई की रिप्रेजेंट करथिला वाई इन ए प्रॉपर्टी डिस्प्यूट केस रे ड्यूरिंग द प्रोसीडिंग एडवोकेट मिस्टर एक्स एसेट कला ए ब्राइब फ्रॉम द अपोजिंग पार्टी नेची टू डिले द केस करे पे कॉजिंग सिग्निफिकेंट हार्म हला टू मिस्टर वाई इंटरेस्ट रे मोरओवर मिस्टर एक्स फेल्ड हला टू इन्फॉर्म हिज क्लाइंट को अबाउट क्रिटिकल हियरिंग डेट्स को फेल्ड टू इन्फॉर्म जानिया पे हिज क्लाइंट को अबाउट क्रिटिकल हियरिंग डेट्स leading to adverse judgment the विरुद्ध judgment आसिला the above problems it is violation of rules made by the bar council of India for the professional ethics it is violation of rules bar council of India has laid down certain rules and advocates duty towards the client it includes fearlessly upholding the interest the nature of proceedings in the case of professional misconduct proceeding ro nature hochi in the case of professional misconduct वृत्तिगत misconduct ro see hochi only 3 quasi criminal nature proceeding in the case of professional misconduct case रे quasi criminal in nature अर्ध क्रिमिनल मान होची अर्ध क्रिमिनल को प्रोसीडिंग केस प्रोफेशनल मिसकंडक्ट क्वासी क्रिमिनल प्रोफेशनल मिसकंडक्ट कले अप्रोप्रिएट प्रोसीड्यूरल फौजदारी अर्ध फौजदारी appropriate procedural safeguards help reduce करियो threat to objectivity and counter any perception of a possible bias which of the following appropriate procedural जो safeguards अछि रक्षा करियो help safeguards help करियो reduce threat भय को कमिया पई to objectivity लक्ष्य and counter any perception को counter करियो non disclosure of any possible source एटा होची देखने as per section 284 2 share means share in the share capital of a company रे and includes करिवो stocks share मान होची share in the share capital of a company रे and includes stocks भी stocks share दीटा को section 284 of the company act defines share which means share in the share capital रे also capital of a company and includes stock रो एते स्टॉक अछि इट डज नॉट इंक्लूड डिबेंचर प्रेफरेंस शेयर एंड बॉन्ड्स डिबेंचर नो सेक्शन 43 ऑफ कंपनीज एक्ट 2013 प्रोवाइड्स जोगे दबो काइंड ऑफ शेयर कैपिटल शेयर्स पूंजी एक्सप्लेनेशन सेक्शन 43 ऑफ द कंपनी एक्ट 2013 रे प्रोवाइड दैट द शेयर कैपिटल ऑफ ए कंपनी लिमिटेड बाय शेयर्स shall be two दी प्रकार शेयर कैपिटल शेयर पूंजीटा अंश पूंजी इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल गोटे आ गोटे होची प्रेफरेंस शेयर कैपिटल इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल होची विथ वोटिंग राइट्स और विथ डिफरेंशियल राइट as to dividend voting otherwise in accordance with such rules as may be prescribed preference share capital equity share capital with voting rights or with differential rights as to dividend voting rights or with differential right दरकार with differential right to dividend voting or otherwise in accordance with such rules a manufacturing company in the city of Surat named X has been discharging करथिला untreated industrial waste को treat न होइथवा industrial माने वेस्ट वाटर को इनटू नियर बाय रिवर रे वायोलेटिंग द प्रोविजन ऑफ एनवायरमेंट प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट 1986 को वायोलेट करथिला वाटर प्रिवेंशन एंड कंट्रोल एक्ट पॉल्यूशन एक्ट 1974 को मध्ये वाटर प्रिवेंशन एनवायरमेंट प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट 1986 वाटर प्रिवेंशन एंड कंट्रोल होची वाटर प्रिवेंशन एंड कंट्रोल वाटर पॉल्यूशन कंट्रोल पॉल्यूशन 1974 This has resulted severe pollution making the river water for irrigation ପାଇଁ and daily needs ପାଇଁ in severe pollution ହେଲା making river water unsafe ହେଲା for drinking ପାଇଁ ଆଉ harming aquatic life जीवन ପାଇଁ जल जीवन local farmers and residents आदिवासी माने who rely on the river निर्भर करथिले निर्भर करथिले on the river for irrigation ପାଇଁ and daily needs ପାଇଁ have started facing health issue आरंभ करथिले facing health issue ପାଇଁ and crop failures started करथिले facing health issue crop failures due to the contaminated water जो contaminated मान होची खराब पानी contaminated water facing health issue and crop failures भी हेतला contaminated पानी ପାଇଁ हेतला कोन crop failure despite multiple complaints to the local pollution control board को no action has been taken हेइ नथिला against the company against किछि कार्यकारी हेइ नथिला above problem it is the violation of section 24 of the water prevention and control of pollution act 1974 এটা water prevention and control of pollution 1974 which of the following act is popularly known as the umbrella legislation माने होची the environment protection act को कहते umbrella legislation which of the following is included under section 21W the information technology act 2000 information technology act describing the intermediary in cyber cafe रे तब टेलीकॉम जो ये सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म रे इंटरमीडिएट इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी एक्ट इंटरनेट सर्विस प्रोवाइडर टेलीकॉम हेनी टेलीकॉमटा नुह आईटी टेक्नोलॉजी एक्ट हो साइबर कैफे सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म से इंटरनेट सर्विस प्रोवाइडर मालती गोटे हूँ स्मॉल बिजनेसमैन ओनर्स रन ऑनलाइन क्लॉथिंग स्टोर को रिसेंटली चलाऊँगी सी नोटिस देखला जहाँ वेबसाइट हैड बीन हैक्ड हो and our customers personal information including names address and payment details was stolen चोरी होइछि shortly after some of our customers reported unauthorized transaction on their account reported कले unauthorized transaction बिना authorized transaction on their accounts रे Malti wishes to file a complaint against the incident on the basis of above problem এটা করিব it is punishable under section 66 information technology act 2000 section 66A and it is punishable under section 66 of information technology act 2000 and the customer can also claim the compensation under certain circumstances can claim kari paribe so claim kari paribe the compensation under certain circumstances निर्दिष्ट परिस्थिति रे fraudulently accessing करी कंप्यूटर को joint reading of section 43 or 46 दुईटा का Infrastructure Act suggests that the dishonestly and fraudulently accessing the computer को computer system or computer network and stealing data चोरी करियो from it is punishable with imprisonment it is punishable दंडनीय with imprisonment for a term दंडनीय imprisonment जेल को जीवो for a term which may be extended to 3 years बढ़ी परिबो और with फाइन सहित which may extended to 5 lakh rupees मध्ये or with both मध्ये it also establishes that person shall be liable to pay damages दबो by way of compensation to the persons who affected हेथियो additionally depending on the circumstances Malti could also be made to compensate the customers Malti could also be made to compensate देई परिबो for failing to protect their data under section 43A of the act should be made to compensate the customer को for failing to protect their data to protect करा their data under section 43A of act 43A act रे 43 46 रे जने compensation दबो और customer मालती भी दबो 43A रे to protect the data protect कर पेलेनी which of the following is are included under the definition of an employer given under the industrial relation code there कोडियर रे इंडस्ट्रियल एम्प्लॉयर जे माने मालिक कंपनी रो इंडस्ट्रियल रिलेशन कोड 2020 रे रहउछि ऑक्युपायर ऑफ द फैक्ट्री एंड कॉन्ट्रैक्टर एंड मैनेजर ऑफ द फैक्ट्री होछि कि डेफिनेशन ऑफ द एम्प्लॉयर माने होछि तीन मैनेजर ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्टर ऑक्युपायर ऑफ द फैक्ट्री ऑक्युपायर which of the following legislation has been included under the social security code 2020 following legislation has been included under the social security code 1 to 4 maternity benefit act 1961 social security code रे पेमेंट ऑफ ग्रेच्युटी मध्ये act 1972 पेमेंट ग्रेच्युटी जो मिलछि दरमा चाकरी पर ठीक शेष हेले एम्प्लॉयमेंट एक्सचेंज कंपल्सरी नोटिफिकेशन ऑफ वैकेंसी जो बाहरिबो वैकेंसी एक्ट 1959 एम्प्लॉयमेंट एक्सचेंज कंपल्सरी नोटिफिकेशन वैकेंसी एक्ट 1959 has been included under the social security code set up under the provision of the industrial dispute act 1947 रे कोन सेट अप हेतला industrial dispute act for education of industrial dispute बुझिया पई इन एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन रे जो एजुकेशन ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट जो XYZ टेक्सटाइल लिमिटेड ए मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी रिसेंटली टर्मिनेट कला 4 वर्कर को विदाउट प्रोवाइडिंग एनी कंपेंसेशन देलानी टर्मिनेट कला विदाउट प्रोवाइडिंग कंपेंसेशन termination the termination was because of the misconduct on the part of workers the termination was because of the misconduct on the part of workers Termination was because of the misconduct on the part of the workers. Misconduct part of the workers. The company issued a show cause notice and the disciplinary inquiry conducted against them. Notice Patela issued a show cause notice and disciplinary inquiry committee conducted against them. On the basis of the recommendation, the committee of the service, claimed the managing service which was rejected by the management. Basis of recommendation of the committee, the services. On the basis of recommendation of the committee, the service which was rejected by the management agreed by the rejection of the workers filed of these employees were terminated. The workers claimed the retrenchment compensation complaint in the labor court. Under the provision of the Industrial Dispute Act, Industrial the Dispute Act, based on above problem, select the termination does not amount to retrenchment, hence no compensation मिलिबनी. Amount to retrenchment କିଛି ମିଳିବନି because disciplinary committee service, the services which are rejected by the management द्वारा aggrieved by the rejection ପାଇଁ MSJ banker refuses to honor kala checks of MSF though jadio she was having sufficient balance it does not suffer any loss to MS banker refuse mana kala to honor check of MSF ର jadio she was having sufficient balance ଥିଲା ତଥାପି it does not suffer any loss ହେଲାନି. Can file the case under which scenario? Injurious sign damnum. Explanation in the case. Injurious sign damnum होची the infringement of an absolute private right without any actual loss or damage. कौन सी actual damage नथिला. The person whose right is infringed हेतला cause of action in case of damnum sign injuria the actual and substantial loss without infringement of any legal right. कौन सी infringement of legal right? No action lies. Mere loss in money or money worth does not itself constitute banker ଗୋଟେ refuses ମାନକଲା to honor check ଗୋଟେ bank ଟା MSF ର to honor check. She was having sufficient balance ଥିଲା. It does not suffer any loss to MSF. MSF can file petition କରିପାରିବେ. Actual and substantial loss without infringement of any legal right. No action lies. Mere loss in money or money worth does not itself constitute tort nuho. Any actual loss or damage. The person whose right is infringed has a cause of action. In case of a damnum sign injuria sign damnum the infringement of an absolute private right. संपूर्ण private right without any actual loss or damage. Loss sufficient balance थिला are not suffering loss to MSF. Mr. B told Mr. A कहला leave the premises in occupation और Mr. A ର premises को छाड़िया ପାଇଁ. In occupation मान होची वृत्ति. Premises in occupation. B कहला Mr. A को leave छाड़िया ପାଇଁ. When Mr. A refused mana kala then Mr. B collected some of his workmen who mustered around Mr. A. They talking of their sleeves को हाथ कांधा धरिकरी बाहु धरिकरी and aprons and threatened to break the plaintiff necks. Talking of their sleeves हाथ धरिकरी and aprons and threatened भवित देखले to break the plaintiff's neck भांगी देवा ପାଇଁ. He did not leave under which tortious act Mr. A can file the case करिवो. Mr. A can file case against B against assault case करियो. Mr. J knowing while taking the lift Mrs. J knowing while taking the lift the driver Mr. T was under the influence of alcohol thus consequently car met with accident and Mrs. J got injuries and she has filed the case for the compensation ପାଇଁ which defense could be claimed by Mr. T. को डिफेंस नहीं पारिबे act of जो volenti non fit injuria अर्थ होची ए लैटिन मैक्सिम which implies volenti non fit injuria which implies that someone willingly place themselves यदि कहीं जने willingly इच्छा करिक place themselves in a position रे where harm might result हबो यदि harm हबो क्षति हबो with the knowledge रे ज्ञान रे that the some degree of human harm might result such person shall not be able to bring any claim दबनी against the other party in tort रे someone willingly इच्छा करिक place themselves in a position यदि रखिबो where harm result हबो lift को रखिला द ड्राइवर while taking the lift taking नौथला द लिफ्ट को द ड्राइवर मिस्टर टी वाज अंडर द इन्फ्लुएंस अल्कोहल consequently कार मेट विथ एक्सीडेंट हला जानि की रखिला होची वॉलंटरी नॉन फिट इंजरिया with the knowledge that some degree of harm might result हला such person shall not be able to bring any claim आनिवनी against the other party in tort रे मिस्टर के होची ओनर ऑफ द बिल्डिंग कंटेनिंग ए लार्ज नंबर ऑफ रूम्स लिंक बहुत रूम थी and had derived considerable income by letting them. Mr. Y is owner of an adjacent cotton mill. Y टा होची ओनर of adjacent cotton mill ro which erected after the occupation. Mr. K owing to noise and smoke of the mill. Noise मान शब्द smoke of the mill several rooms remain vacated. Smoke of the mill several rooms remain vacated. The result into loss for Mr. K examine relevant tort for the case. There was a nuisance. Building a large number of rooms had derived considerable income by letting them. Why was the owner of an adjacent cotton mill which erected after the occupation अधिकार कला by Mr. K owing to noise color and smoke of the mill several rooms remain vacated hela derive a considerable income by letting them letting them माने भड़ा देकी considerable income by letting them किरी तेनु cotton mill erected after the occupation by owner Y is owner of the adjacent cotton mill which erected after the occupation. Mr. K owing to noise smoke of the mill जो several vacated हो गए in loss for Mr. K examine relevant tort for the case. Tort कला nuisance ପାଇଁ. There is a collision between two buses हला two buses भीतर collision हला one owned by the government and another was the private bus. Wherein private bus was coming from wrong side and government bus coming rashly जोर neither slowing down his bus after slowing not करी bus after seeing the other bus देखी करी determined the tortious act कौन contributory negligence दी जनकर contributory negligence दी जनकर negligence income is described in income tax act 1961 under section 224(2) रे income describe हेतला income tax act 1961 रे हेतला 62,000 in the term deposit of 5 वर्ष with the post office to avail tax deduction under the section 80C assuming Mr. X does not opt for concessional tax regime से 15 BSc of the income tax act 1961 करथला 5,000 in the term of deposit 5 वर्ष रे with the post office to avail tax deduction under the section 80C रे पाइला assuming Mr. X does not opt for concessional tax regime option करनथिला for concessional tax regime पे से 15 BSc of the income tax act 1961 X is not guilty of either tax evasion but tax avoidance guilty no in the term of deposit 5 वर्ष रे तेणु किंतु ऑफिस टू अवेल पोस्ट ऑफिस टू अवेल टैक्स डिडक्शन अंडर द सेक्शन 80C अंडर रे assuming Mr. X does not opt कर नथिला कंसेशनल टैक्स रिजीम छाड़ पई अंडर सेक्शन से 15 BSC of the Income Tax Act से guilty of either not guilty tax evasion or tax avoidance पे as per section 80C in the computing the annual income of an individual as the certain sum shall be deducted as per clause 2 subclause of the same action on such sum is 5-year time deposit in account रे with the post office रे 80C रे computing the annual income of an individual certain sum shall be deducted ହେଇଯିବ as per clause 2 only subclause x 25 excess Aibe some section रे 24 and such sum is 5-year time deposit with post office deposit of some section one such sum is 5-year time given statement agricultural income is exempted from tax under section 10(1) income tax 1961 ଅନୁଯାୟୀ agricultural income is exempt from tax ରେ ଆଉ tax on non agricultural in case of non agricultural income exceeds basic exemption limit ରୁ ଯଦି ଅଧିକ ହେବ and agricultural income exceeds 5000 ରୁ determined by scheme of partial integration of non agricultural income with agricultural income 5000 ଅଧିକ ହେଲେ ତେଣୁ non agricultural income exceeds basic exemption limit ରୁ ଯଦି tax on non agriculture ଯଦି କୃଷି ବ୍ୟତୀତ agriculture ନୁହଁ in case of non agriculture basic exemption ରୁ ଅଧିକ ହେଇଯିବ basic ଛାଡ଼ରୁ limit ରୁ 5000 ଟଙ୍କା ଅଧିକ ହେଲେ ହେବ non agriculture income exempt ହେବ ତାପରେ tax ଆଉ non agriculture tax ଲାଗିବ rent free accommodation provided by an employer to employee जो रहिबे provided by an employer to employee को इज कोन requisite as per section 17(2) of the Income Tax Act Income Tax Act ର 17(2) section enforceable by law को agreement not enforceable law द्वारा enforce हबनी is stated to be void हबो section 2G act रे an agreement not enforceable by law agreement enforceable हबनी the concept of invalid guarantee is covered under invalid guarantee होची 4244 law of contract defines a proposal may be revoked is at any time before but not after communication of its acceptance is complete as against with the proposer revoked ହେଇଯିବ at any time before but not after ପରେ communication of its acceptance ପରେ ହବନି is complete as against the proposer section 5 ରେ ଅଛି with section of law of a contract section 5 law of a contract of proposal may be revoke ହେଇଯିବ before ହେଇପାରିବ but not after ପରେ ହେଇପାରିବ ନାହିଁ of its acceptance ପରେ is complete against proposer according to land acquisition act land acquisition rehabilitation and resettlement habo there governments can acquire land for government land acquire karibo project public private partnership project where the government ownership of land will remain with the government public private partnership project where government ownership of land government ownership of land will remain with the government ରହିବ with the government ସହିତ acquisition act strategic proposal project of family affected by project family affected by project द्वारा strategic proposal ର ସବୁ project where government ownership of land will remain ରହିବ with the government ସହିତ 2013 replace which earlier registration होची land acquisition 1894 1894 को replace करची land acquisition act 2013 copyright protection for literary works copyright protection of literary works रहुची lifetime of the author plus 60 years lifetime of author lifetime plus 60 years 60 वर्ष रो अधिक